Go ahead, Stan.
All right. Welcome into Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Press Box and PressBoxOnline.com. With me, as always, on these Monday night forays into the world of baseball is Ross Grimsley, the old left-hander. Ross, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, man. Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
We're always excited anytime we get to talk to the man on the bottom quarter of my screen right now. We're going to talk to him in just a minute after I finish telling you about Costas. He's the former skipper of the Baltimore Orioles and a friend to all baseball fans in Baltimore. That's Dave Trembley. We'll talk to Dave in just a minute. First of all, I want to tell you about Costas Inn, located 4100 North Point Boulevard. Been there a long time. They keep celebrating anniversaries every year. They just keep grinding it out. I've known the Triantopolos family for close to 30 years right now. They've always stood behind me. They stand behind their product, and they've done a really neat thing there. They've really stepped up their game in the curbside pickup world, whether it's steamed crabs, crab cakes, any of their specials Monday through Thursday night, any food that's on the menu. You can order it online at CostasInn.com. You can pay for it online. Then when you pick it up, all you have to do is let them know you're there, and they'll bring it out to your car. Everything's packed immaculately. Grandma's soup is not going to pour over the chicken Caesar salad you got. Everything is packed beautifully. It's Costas Inn. CostasInn.com. That's where you can order and pay for your food. The Costas Inn. Well, Ross, we always have a smile on our face when we get to talk to this gentleman below us. He is the former skipper of the Baltimore Orioles, Dave Trembley. He just finished up another season in the Major League Baseball Draft League. Let's start with that, and then we'll work our way into the World Series, Dave. Was it good in year two?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was well run. We had an opportunity to work with a little bit of older player. All the guys that we had were all draft eligible from the year before when I did it for MLB and USA Baseball. They were all college freshmen and sophomores. The players that we had were all in the league, were all draft eligible. So they were all college juniors or above. And there were only 6 teams in the league. I was in State College, Pennsylvania. The facilities we used were at Penn State. They were just outstanding. And, Jim Gott was my pitching coach who brought a lot of experience. We were able to teach baseball fundamentals, which is, always been our forte. It's always kind of been our forte, and which kind of keeps us going. And, we enjoyed the opportunity. We were there from June 1st until Labor Day.
We're going to reach out to Jim because he said he'd be happy to do this once the season was over. His season was over, and now that the baseball season is over, what'd you like about Jim? Did you know him before this experience at all?
I did. We were in spring training together with the Pirates in 1989. Wow. I was a Double-A manager for the Pirates. Jim Leland was the manager. We were in Pirate City together. I was in Major League spring training as an instructor. So I got to know Jim there and obviously followed his career. First class person, number one. Number two, brought a lot of experience to younger players. Was a really good teacher and was a real good support guy for me. I just enjoyed it so much being with him because, a lot of times you get big league guys and, they some of them feel as if they're above it a little bit. He wanted to get right in there all the time and teach and get to the park early and spend a lot of time trying to develop players, and he did. We had 14 guys that signed. 10 of them were drafted, and 4 of them were non-drafted free agents. And I think Jim had 10 pitchers that were drafted.
Just before I turn you over to Ross to ask a couple questions, are you familiar with the story about Jim Gott, what he did surrounding the Cal Ripken record-breaking of Lou Gehrig's record, what he did with his first win in the major leagues, that ball?
Yeah, I'm real familiar with it. In fact, Jim Henneman, who's a Hall of Fame writer and a great friend for all of us, he came to Frederick, Maryland last summer, and he wanted to personally talk to Jim about that. And I think it just speaks volume to what kind of person Jim Gott is for what he did.
Yeah. For those that don't know the story, I'll make it very brief. He reached out to the Orioles when Cal was a month or so beforehand, and his game ball, his first major league win, he had the ball, and that ball happened to be the first game of Cal's streak, and he gave it to Cal, and Cal was literally, I think more than anything else, was just literally blown away that this meant enough to Jim Gott, that his love for baseball was such, and how special that moment was. So he always won me over after that. Ross, you got a couple questions for Dave Trembley?
Absolutely. Dave, this was a draft eligible league, different than the league you did the year before, obviously. How was the season? I know the players, you had the players, it was the season was split up. Tell us a little bit about the first part and the last part.
Yeah, the first part were all guys that were, went through a lot of the scouting services and were recommended by major league scouts, farm directors, college coaches. These services, Prep Baseball Report, put a list together for MLB. And then, these guys were handpicked. So they were a little bit better players than, what we had the year before. The league the year before was younger guys. It was a great experience because we had to, mold these guys into team baseball. And, obviously the first priority was to get themselves some exposure and, get them on draft lists. And, there was a lot of scouts that came out. Everybody just before the draft, they had a pro day at PNC Park. So we got to take all the guys there. They worked out in front of all the scouts and scouting directors and, got all the data and interviews and all that. The second half of the season was a little bit different. It was guys who had exhausted their college eligibility. There were some guys that had been released from other organizations, had played less than 1 year of professional baseball, and guys looking to sign with organizations. So it was a little bit different. I enjoyed the first half a little bit more because, there was a little bit more teaching. The second half was guys, they're looking, to sign with a club and do whatever they could do in order to get to that opportunity.
Did many of them sign the second half?
Yeah, we had 4 guys that signed the second half. 3 of them were pitchers and 1 was an outfielder. And then I know in the league, when the season was over, there was, I think 6 or 8 other guys from other clubs that signed when the season was over. They took those guys to instructional league.
Right. Did you get a chance to follow any of the players that signed and follow how they did?
I did. We had a shortstop who I really liked. His name was Keyshawn Ogans. He was from UC Berkeley. He could really pick it. He reminded me when we had Ozzie Albies when I was with the Braves. He was a little guy, but he really had a great glove. And, the Braves got him, I think, in the 17th round. He signed. He went to rookie ball. He was so excited. He called me after his first hit that he got down in rookie ball. And, I followed him. I followed the other guys. And then a lot of those guys.
Who did he get drafted by, Dave?
The Braves.
The Braves.
The Braves got him. His name is Keyshawn Ogans from UC Berkeley. He's going to be a real good player. Some of the pitchers went to, like the Gulf Coast League, and their season was over while we were still playing. So some of those guys came back up to State College because they left some of their things there, and they wanted to see their teammates. And I got to talk to them, and they were so excited. Tried to give them a little bit of an orientation of what professional baseball was going to be like, and they really appreciated. I really appreciated those guys as well. It's neat to see nice things happen for guys who earn it.
Yeah. Who are some of the right off your top of your hat there? Some of the guys that stood out in the league that you have a good chance of moving up the ladder?
Well, I thought there were some guys. Joe Oliver was managing at Frederick, and he had some pitchers there. He had a kid that was 16 years old from Taiwan that the Angels signed, a left-handed pitcher, and the Angels drafted him and signed him. I thought he's got a chance to be really good. Jed Gierko, former big league shortstop with the Cardinals and the Brewers.
Sure.
He had some very good players at West Virginia. In fact, they ended up winning the league. Jeff Manto, former hitting guy with the Orioles and a great baseball guy. He was at Trenton. He had a catcher that I really liked, got drafted real high. There were some guys that, you can go to the MLB website, MLB Draft League website, and you can see all the players that got selected. I think there were 47 of them that got drafted, and then there were some other guys after that signed. So there was in the mid 60s guys that came out of the league and signed professional contracts.
Did any of the major league teams reach out to you for any info?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of scouts and a lot of guys called you. There was a lot of people in attendance. I think it helped a little bit that we worked for the Braves, and people would come and ask your opinion a little bit about players. And I tell you, man, what impressed me is most of the scouts that wanted to talk, they wanted to talk about guys' work ethic, they wanted to talk about guys' makeup, and they wanted to talk about projectability as far as guys' tools were concerned. Where did I see guys, in 2 or 3 years as far as their tools? And, I like that part of the game.
Right.
Dave, did you you like the new schedule where the draft is? Do you like it being backed up a little bit?
It's going to be backed up next year because I got the schedule for the league already, and the draft's going to be earlier in June next year.
It's going back to earlier in June.
Yeah, it's going back. It's going to be earlier in July. It's going to be like July, because the draft league first half is going to end like July 3rd or 4th.
Okay.
So the draft is going to be a little bit earlier, I think, and it gives guys a little bit more of a start to start their professional career.
Okay.
The way
this
the
seemed
league
a
was
little
this year, guys get drafted at the end of July, and by the time they go someplace, it's the 1st of August, and they only get a month to play.
Yeah. How about the minor league season this year? Did you like that it kept baseball being played at all the levels in the organization through at least mid-September? I think it's a good idea.
Well, I think it was a great play for Major League Baseball because in the past, what we used to do is the season would get over, around Labor Day, and those guys would basically come to instructional league or go to the complex in Florida, Arizona, and be ready in case somebody got hurt in the big leagues, and have those guys ready. So now, when guys didn't, they could go, like the Yankees sent guys to Somerset in New Jersey. Now they could be ready.
Yeah.
The Braves could send guys to Gwinnett. That's 30 minutes from Atlanta. They had facilities in their own backyard, and players could still be playing right up until, the 3rd week of September.
That shortstop that you mentioned, what's his name? Kelly Onkins?
Keyshawn Ogans. Ogans. He's going to be a good player.
You said the Braves drafted him. Your team was a Braves sort of team. Did you end up recommending him?
I recommended him to a bunch of clubs. I thought the team that was going to get him, that talked to me the most was the Red Sox. I thought the Red Sox were going to take him, right? Because they had talked to me and they sent some guys into State College and on the road. And when the Braves got him, I said, "Hey, you're going to a great organization with great people, and I know he's going to enjoy it. I know he's going to be a real good player."
What round did he go in?
I think he went in the 17th round.
Okay.
There's only, I think, 20 rounds now.
Yep.
And if you look at the draft as a whole, I think most of the teams loaded up on pitching. And I think that's the way to go. You got to get good pitching. That was proven in the playoffs and in the World Series. You got to have arms.
Again.
You got to develop them too, Ross.
Really?
You got to be patient with them.
Yep.
And you got to develop them. And, you just got to work with them.
Let's talk a little bit about the World Series. I know you're not best friends with Dusty Baker, but you've rubbed elbows against Dusty. You've watched his work ethic over the years. Couldn't be happier for the guy, I'm imagining.
Yeah, it's great for the game. And I think it says a lot about, if you listen to him, such a very positive guy. he believed in perseverance, and he had respect from the players because, he let them play. You saw the way Houston played last year and the way they played this year. Dusty will take all the information, but I tell you, Dusty, goes a lot by what's in his gut and in his heart, and he tries to get to know his guys and he lets them play. And you also saw that, he doesn't play for the big inning with the home run. He puts guys in motion. He's got the number 8 guy up there. They'll hit and run with him. They'll hit and run with Maldonado. He's not afraid to bunt. He lets the pitchers, as Ross, you could love, he lets the pitchers face guys the third time around in the lineup, and he doesn't go to the same guy. And the thing that you had to like, if you looked at his, the way he construed his lineup in the World Series with the DH, he had different guys playing all the time. And he kind of rotated the DH around, and the numbers really didn't matter to him. He went with his gut.
Yeah.
And it worked out for him.
Ross, you got a couple more for Skip?
No, that was, I was so thrilled for Dusty, knowing him when I was with the Giants, and he's just a super guy, and really happy for Trey Mancini as well, making it over. He was just watching him. He was so excited. It was a lot of fun. But what do you think about the playoff format now with the 12 teams? I mean, it's not the one and done. It was 2 out of 3, and then so on and so forth. What do you think about that?
Well, obviously it gives more teams an opportunity to play, and it exposes the game more, which I think is good. The negative part for me is it's stretched out way too long. And I think that's because of money that's involved with TV and travel. I know this year with, spring training didn't start on time, but could you imagine when you were playing it, you're going to be playing until the second week of November.
Right.
And teams that I think the bugaboo, and you saw it, Houston was 11-2, in the playoffs and in the World Series, but they had to sit for like 5 or 6 days before they played. The Yankees, some of those teams that had the number 1 seeds, the Dodgers, they had to sit for 5 or 6 days. I don't know if that's good for the player.
Right.
If you look back, this date in baseball, 1956, I remember looking in the paper and they'd say, Don Drysdale in 1956, October 6th, he pitched the perfect game and the World Series was over. Mazeroski hit the home run in the 7th game to beat the Pirates and be like October 5th, and the World Series was over. I think it's great they got more teams. There's more money for the players. There's more exposure for the game, but I'd like to see them play the games maybe a little bit more on consecutive days. They got the TV. They play 2 games today on one station, and they got 2 days off because
Really?
the other network wants to get the 2 games. They want to have the monopoly on the games, and I don't know about that.
I'd like to see a few more scheduled double headers that chop 8 or 10 days off the regular season. Everybody's got to work a little harder, but everybody's getting bigger money, and have the season end more like September 20th, and then rather than get into November.
Yeah. The other thing is you're dealing with, the players go so long, and this, Ross, as a major league pitcher, you got to have some downtime when the season's over.
Yep.
And this really shortens their downtime because starting in December, again, pitchers are going to go on their throwing program. The hitters are going to start ramping it up again in January, and they really don't have a lot of recovery time. They don't have a lot of recovery.
I mean, we were over in October, and that give you October, November, December. And you start tossing some in January. I mean, these guys don't even get. I mean, it's a year-round thing, and it's a wonder more guys don't get hurt. I mean, there's already a plethora of guys injured, all the time. It seems like more and more each year, but yeah, there's just not enough downtime. And plus, I think Houston was the best team in overall,
no doubt,
in the game. I thought it from the beginning, but a lot of the big teams got knocked off early in this thing, and that was what are your thoughts on that?
I think the teams that get knocked off early are, the other teams. You look at San Diego. San Diego got hot at the right time. The Mets had the big lead. They had a 10.5 game lead and couldn't win a couple games down the stretch in order to win the division. So they had to go to the wild card. The Braves, won 101 games again. It comes down to pitching for me in those series. The teams that pitch and catch the ball, and if you saw in the series, all of them, you saw some things that happened in the series. The inability to get the guy that's hit number 8 out with 2 outs,
Right.
to get the guy out that's hitting 7th with 2 outs. Houston was unbelievable. Pena with 2 outs, he'd get a base hit with
Right.
2 outs and give Alvarez an opportunity to come up there and boom, hit a home run.
Yeah.
There's just some good baseball, but Houston, for me, they still play team baseball. They don't rely on the home run. They go pitching and defense. They get base hits. They take walks, and they got some starting pitching that throw strikes.
Right. Exactly.
Dave, do you know Rob Thompson well?
I know
Phillies
Rob Thompson.
manager?
I know Rob Thompson very well. As a matter of fact, in 1989, when I was managing in the Eastern League, at the end of the year, we took an Eastern League All-Star team to the Soviet Union for almost 3.5 weeks. And Rob Thompson that year was a coach for the London Tigers. Chris Chambliss was the manager of that team.
God.
Rob Thompson went on that trip with me as a coach. I knew Rob Thompson all those years I was in the minor leagues. He was in the minor leagues with the Yankees. He was the bench coach for the Yankees for about 10 years. Rob Thompson's a good friend. I've worked a lot of camps with him in the off season. A baseball lifer. Baseball lifer.
Yeah, and had a ton of success winning with those Yankee teams when he was a coach with the Yankees for so long. Yeah.
Well, he learned from some of the best in Mr. Torre. I guarantee you, he was Torre's right-hand man. And, Mattingly and Girardi. But Rob came in and kind of settled things down in Philadelphia and let those guys play.
How well do you know Girardi? And do you
I know Girardi very well.
I thought you
Girardi
did
very well.
And that's why I'm asking. This was
Girardi was a player in the Eastern League when I was managing, and then obviously I managed against Joe when he was with the Yankees. And I think I told you this one story off the air one time about Joe.
All right, but this was not a perfect scenario for him. He rebounded after getting let go by the Yankees, having sort of that internal squabble with them about acceptance of analytics, and he gets a big job with the Phillies, and he had money behind him. I mean, they spent money on players. This is not a great look for him, is it, right now?
It's a tough situation. Joe's he's a by the book guy. Yep. He's a really tremendous person, but sometimes I think people misconstrue. He's so intense. He's so competitive. I think sometimes that doesn't work in his favor a little bit. I mean, I've been guilty of the same thing. And you got a lot of guys that are making a lot of money. Sometimes the best thing is just to stay out of their way and let them play.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Wonder how familiar you are with Bryce Harper and what it, I mean, in other words, this was a guy that was heralded when he was 16 years old that he was going to be the next thing. And he's had a good career, but this was really his biggest stage he's ever had, playing in the World Series, and he performed amazingly well, I thought.
I think Bryce Harper handles himself for a guy who's the biggest superstar, him and Trout, of anybody in the game. The guy comes across as humble, appreciative, loved being in Philadelphia, was a team guy. Boy, he sure knows the bright lights are on him, and he doesn't change. He doesn't blink. He come up with some big hits. I saw him when he was, I think, 17 or 18 years old in the national system, and I was a field coordinator for the Braves, and I go in Rome, Georgia, and I saw him hit a ball about 450 feet. And then the next time he came up, he was like Mickey Mantle, and he drag bunted for a hit. And he was playing center field. I said, "Who the heck is this kid?" Well, we all found out real quick.
Yeah.
This guy he's special.
And I'll tell you who else is special, and I got a feeling you have a little connection with. Did you have Schwarber in the Cubs organization?
No, I had left, but Schwarber was drafted by Jim Hendry under that regime. I had left and come to Baltimore. Schwarber was a catcher.
Yep,
And,
I remember that.
but he was a bat, and that's
Yeah.
why they drafted him. They put him at first base, and they always asked Schwarber, "What's your best position?" And he said, "Hitter."
Ross and I, we've been talking to some old school guys the last few weeks. We thought we'd pick your brain about what you think about the rule changes that are going to hit the Major League Baseball next year. Do you like the disappearance of the shifts?
Yeah, I think it's fair. You saw guys like Rizzo and some of these guys, they hit line drives that are 210 feet to short right field, and guys are catching them. I'm not so sure that you can have all two infielders on one side of second and two on the other. I think it's fair if you just have them all in the infield.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to Lou Boudreau when he was a player manager for Cleveland, and he put the Ted Williams shift on, and Williams would never hit it over that way.
Right.
I think as long as they're on the dirt, it's okay.
I agree with you.
The thing that's just perplexing to me is the size of the bases. We all grew up with 90 feet between the bases, and now I read between first and second and third, it's like 88 and a half feet because the bases are.
Have you seen the bases? Have you seen them, Dave?
Yeah, I really don't know how that's going to help speed up the game or help the game. That one is very perplexing to me.
I think what they feel is it's going to increase first of all, they've put it under the guys that they think it's going to be safer for base runners, like the Bryce Harper injury a couple of years ago, that there's no chance he'll step on the foot of the first baseman as he's coming down the line. But I think the real angle is they think it's going to improve stolen base success ratio, and that's going to translate into more runs and more excitement. I think that's what they think.
Well, I think what they're going to have to do, maybe they'll start teaching base running, as part of the game now, and stealing bases, because if you steal 25 or 30, you're leading the league, and somebody that's maybe got 15 or 16 is a close second. So I'm not so sure about that one, but it's really different. I mean, when we were kids, could you ever imagine that some of these things would be happening, in the game? The next one that's going to be implemented, you see the challenge now of balls and strikes, and I just don't know. I don't know.
The one that gets me is the three pitch, that you have to pitch the three batters, all in the under the auspices of wanting to speed the game up. And I'm just thinking about that rule is in effect in the World Series. So a manager's hands are tied where he has to be thinking ahead. And when he brings a pitcher in, he can't just try and mix and match in the World Series. And that seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Well, if you look at a guy, and Ross, you probably remember this guy's name. His name is Darryl Knowles.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Darryl.
I know him.
Knowles, he's a real good friend. And in a World Series, he appeared in all 7 games of a World Series one year with Oakland.
Right.
With Oakland. Yep.
I think what it's done is it's eliminated guys that are specialty guys in matchup. That's part of the game. That's part of the strategy of the game, is matchup baseball. I mean, I had 2 guys with Baltimore that would not be in the game anymore: Chad Bradford and Jamie Walker. Bradford was the guy out of Moneyball, was a low 3/4 right-handed guy, and Walker was a breaking ball lefty. Those guys don't exist anymore. We're not even developing those guys anymore. But from a standpoint of a manager, I agree with you.
What bothers me about it, because I do see such a difference in the regular season and the postseason, is that's a rule that I don't have as big a problem with in the regular season, but in the World Series, you've gone through 162 games, another dozen or 14 games in the playoffs, and it's game 6 of the World Series, and I got to bring in a pitcher that I know's got to face 3 guys. That seems like real artificial to me.
Well, you look at the one rule that they don't have in the playoffs in the World Series, and that's the phantom runner at second base.
Yeah.
When it goes to extra innings, perhaps if they get to the playoffs in the World Series, you could, just bypass that rule of have a guy face three hitters when you bring them in.
I have to admit, and Ross, I don't know how you feel. We've done this show for 3 years now, close to 3 years. Do you like the ghost runner during the regular season? It's grown on me tremendously. I think it adds a layer of excitement.
Well, it's different. It's different because there's some finality to the game. But if you look at it, what I thought it was going to do was kind of bring back a little bit of fundamental baseball a little bit, but you don't see that very much. You see a guy on second, they don't try to move the guy. They're trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Yeah. You get a guy on third with the infield back, they don't try to hit a ground ball. They're trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So I think the players like it because they don't want to play 15 or 16 innings. Yeah. But from the standpoint of the fan, I like the strategy of the game. I don't like to put my pitcher, leave him on the hook. So I'm going to bring a pitcher in the 10th, and all of a sudden that guy didn't earn to go out there at second, but hey, buddy, you're facing this guy at second, and that's the win and run. So, hey, go get him.
Yeah. Well, they do. At least they do acknowledge that because it's not counted as an earned run. But I'll tell you what's grown on me is more and more, there's not a finality if the first team scores 1 or even 2 runs in the top half of the 10th. It seems like the other team almost can come back 50% of the time to at least have a chance to tie it again. I found it very interesting.
You know what I see happening too is, the managers kind of look ahead and they say, well, if this thing's going to be tied, especially if you're the home team, they throw their best guy in the top of the 9th.
Yeah.
Okay. Or they'll throw their best guy in the top of the 10th when it's to try and keep it tied so they get a chance. And now, depending on, what game in the series this is, how many days in a row you have, you may not have your fully rested guys at the back end of the bullpen. You might be using guys that, you don't normally put in games when it's that close. So I think that's a big reason why, and I agree with you, there's teams now that score 4 or 5 runs in those innings.
Ross, you got 1 or 2 more for Dave, and then we'll let him get out of here?
Yeah, I just, Dave, the Judge, great year this year. He's going to be a free agent. Where do you look at him ending up?
Well, I think the Yankees really got to take a long, hard look. He's the face of the New York Yankees. Those guys don't come along very often. The last guy was Jeter. Yeah. Those guys don't come along. I think he played his cards. He handled himself as well as anybody you could ever imagine under the scrutiny and the stress and the bright lights. I hope the Yankees re-sign him. He's one of the few guys left that has an opportunity to play for one team his whole career. Those guys are few and far between, and I think the game needs it. I think the game needs it. And I think he'll say a whole lot about Aaron Judge if he stays and he's loyal to the Yankees, if the Yankees are loyal to him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's a win-win for both.
I think it'll be interesting. I think they're going to, part of the discussions, if they know that they're close, they're going to make him captain of the Yankees. And I think that's a special, really special one. Yeah.
What a player. What a year. And the way he handled himself and the Maris family. And, can you imagine the pressure that this guy was under? He handled it like no other.
I got one other question, Stan, and I just now thought of it.
This is going to be a good one.
Well, no, I just want to see
they're all
what
good,
Dave thinks about it. This was it was brought up. Dusty said something about the first time in 50 years there wasn't an African-American player in the World Series. My question, what can be done to help the African-American players? Because there's a lot of outstanding athletes obviously out there. What can be done to get these guys playing? Because I'm, and you've seen a lot of outstanding athletes that can help teams in the major leagues eventually with obviously the,
Well, I think Major League Baseball in the last couple of years that's been the number one issue, or one of the number one issues on their plate. And I think they've done a great job with some of these leagues, some of these programs, these academies, these tournaments that they have to develop young players and get them attracted to playing baseball. I had a kid this summer, and I'll let you go. I had a kid this summer, was a college kid from Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. And he was a pitcher, and he didn't play baseball. He did not play baseball until he was 15 or 16 years old, because he couldn't afford to buy a glove, and he couldn't afford to buy the equipment, and he didn't play travel ball. And I think that's kind of the thing that we're trying to clean up and make our game available for everybody.
More accessible to the people that don't have money.
We've done that worldwide now. Ross, could you ever imagine when you were a kid saying that there'd be players from Taiwan, Korea, Panama, Japan, the Latin countries? Baseball is worldwide now with this World Baseball Classic and all these things. I think Major League Baseball, if you look really closely at it, they're doing a heck of a job with opportunities. I know there's some guys they're running those clubs, running these camps, running these clinics. We got to just do a better job.
Following up on Ross's question, is some of it that the cat's already out of the barn, that you just can't get the kids interested in baseball because they're more interested in basketball and football?
I think it's a very competitive business now.
Yeah.
They earmark these kids to play at 12, 13, 14 years old. They ask them to play basically year round. The three sport guy in high school is gone the way of the wind. Now with college football, with the NIL, guys can go and play college football and basically get reimbursed for it. College basketball is one and done. You go to the NBA. It's a tough road, as Ross knows. It's a tough road to go to professional baseball. I remember I had Quincy Carter with the Cubs, who ended up, being a quarterback in the NFL with the Jets and the Cowboys. And he was a high pick out of Georgia by the Cubs. And he came to me in A-ball, and he said, Dave, he was a high school kid. Dave, how long is it going to take me? I got to get to the big leagues. I said, Quincy, you got 4 years in the minor leagues. Well, you know what? The next year,
he was gone.
He was gone. He went to Georgia and played football at the University of Georgia.
I wonder if we're about to see the reverse of that happen. This Kyler Murray is an amazing athlete, but he's supposed to be a real stud in baseball. He's not a real stud as an NFL quarterback. And I think he might all of a sudden just say, you know what, I'm going to go back to baseball. He was drafted by the A's, one of the top picks. So, Dave, we always appreciate talking to you. Always a pleasure.
Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time and thinking about me. And,
we always do.
People and a lot of nice friends.
Love listening to you, buddy.
Every few months, Ross and I smile at one another at the end of one of these rooms, and we go, "Let's get Trembley on." Thanks.
I appreciate it. I really do. Means a lot to me.
All right. That does wrap us up tonight. We've had a little bit of a change, and I'm not sure on Wednesday. We're moving Danny Black to Wednesday, not Thursday. But we haven't detailed who the producer is going to be. He's either going to be on with me at 4:00 or 7:00 to talk sports collectibles. That will be this coming Wednesday. For Dave Trembley and Ross Grimsley and our friends out at the Costas Inn, again, we thank them for their loyalty and their sponsorship. Great place, great people, the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. Give Bert a hug for me, and I'll talk to you later I'll talk to you later this week.
Gotcha. Good luck tonight.
Need it. Go Ravens. Bye.